I continue to have some issues with the compliance report. One, two kinds of issues. The first kind has to do with the report itself. It's very hard to look at this at a glance and find out if anything has changed, if anything has happened. And I see some attempts at highlighting, I see some bolding. I don't know whether that has any significance or whether it just happened that way, or how can I pick this up, Ray, and see what's happened since we sat here last month, if anything? Is there any way
the
that
final outcome? You're asking for, there's an enormous amount of detail that has to appear in this report.
I understand that.
And to condense it, you take away from a meeting and being able to understand it. As far as you'd have to compare the report, previous report, it is too much data, I think, to appear in one report to make a comparison to previous periods. Unless you have another idea, we've worked on this several times.
I know.
We've changed it.
To me, I guess.
So you have yeah.
I worked for some very demanding people, I guess, and maybe you didn't, because if I had given them a report like this, they would have absolutely ushered me out of their office. They would have. There's no summary. There's no kind of summary here for management. It's a database with thousands of entries, and my boss never would have let me get away with giving him a database. He said, "John, tell me what I've got to know in order for enable me to do my job." I don't want a database. I want to know, as part of the management of this community, what's happened in the last month in terms of compliance. Whether good things are happening or nothing is happening, it's static. So, okay, I'll work with you, Ray. I'd be happy to work with you, Ray, to see if we can come up with a management level report. And for my purpose, for my benefit, if nobody else is. If everybody else is happy with this, then you and I won't be the only ones that have to see the.
But I think you got a lot of it here.
You have, but I don't want to have to dig it out. I don't want to have to dig it out.
You got a lazy boss.
I am lazy.
No, you bossed
My boss was lazy, but he taught me.
John,
Static.
Look, I think that it would be helpful to know how many violations there were in a month, how many were resolved in a month. Looking at this report, the conclusion I drew is a lot of people are guilty, but nobody's paying any money.
Well, that's the second point thank you, Joanne, because you led right to my second point. We talked about this also in this room last year. How are we going to police up the compliance violations? And as far as I see, we haven't come up with a solution to that either.
You have your lien option, which isn't a good option. It doesn't really translate into getting dollars. They're often ignored. We collect very seldom do we collect money from liens levied.
I agree.
Where you have to take them to court and file a judgment, and that's costly. We had a resolution and discussion about what dollar levels do we pursue an action, and then in what categories do we pursue.
We started to discuss it, and then we tabled it. We dropped it. And we never carried it through to fruition. I think we need to revisit that subject here in this board, in this session, and see if we can't come up with a way to carry through our compliance things to make a decision as to which ones we're going to carry forward. And then
we have that, John. We had a clear, line for line, it was all spelled out. I'll be glad to send you a copy.
I guess I missed that meeting then, because I didn't.
John, in that meeting, which last time we discussed compliance, just a second.
Yeah.
I believe you took an action item to work with Ray on the compliance, formatting a new compliance report.
Well, if I didn't, I did tonight, so.
Well, you did
Okay.
a couple months ago.
Yeah, okay.
And I know everybody forgets things, I'm not being critical, but I think that was the action.
Okay.
And because I think most people agreed with you that what was being presented was not adequate. And I'd like to renew that action item if I may.
If I missed one, I apologize, and I will take it on this time.
Pat?
Maybe join as the new liaison would work with John also. I would be happy to also work, because I've been involved for so long. What I sense, John, that you're after, and I'm not going to do this tonight, but I sense, and the statistics are all there, because compliance is a very detailed nut and bolt thing, from the number of courtesy notices that are sent out, and that are resolved before the 14 days. The numbers that are referred to. If you're looking, and that maybe you are, is you're looking at the summary of what's the flow of all this stuff. That's numbers versus names. It's a different, it's a very
It
much
is.
higher
It
level.
is. It
And
is.
maybe that's what, quite frankly, that the board really needs, when the office has got the detail.
That
But I'd be
would,
glad to help on that.
you said that so much better than I could ever have done. But that's exactly what I was striving for. Thank you for the help.
If only you wished me, I would be glad to be involved with that.
And as you said,
Without
I think
stepping on
Joanne
Joanne's
should
toes.
be very much a part of that. She's got to live with this.
Well,
John, let me just say, I completely agree with everything you said, except when you insulted me, but that's okay.
what's that? When?
Said I was an easy boss.
Oh, well, you are.
But this report is not what we're looking for, Ray, and I'll be happy to give you my report with all my pencil marks on it, showing that even the database is empty of much information. But the most critical thing I'll say about this report is that I think it begs belief that this is so incomplete. This year alone, we have had, the compliance hearing panels have found 67 people guilty of compliance violations that weren't already paid. So after the compliance hearings were done, if you take away all the ones that were paid, there were 67 people that were guilty and outstanding. We only have 7 people on here that are found guilty of compliance violations this year. Now, if we're actually getting 90% payment on our compliance assessments, I think that's great, but I'm absolutely certain we're not. So I'm going to give you all the compliance hearings for 2007, and I need to ask that every one of those be reported on. What is the status of payment of those assessments for all 67 violations as a part of the reporting that you guys are going to set up? I don't think we're doing a good job on this either.
I will put 2 more words in it. Yeah, it is a very difficult process to keep up with all the pieces that go with it. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't strive to do it. And compliance has always been a problem. It's not the current management of the office or the past one. It's been a horrible thing to try to keep all the steps moving. And I think we're getting better, I really do think we're getting better. We just need to keep.
Very precise,
We do.
very precise. Complete with flow chart.
Boy, okay.
Yeah, John, you should have a flow chart, because your boss would like that.
My boss would like flow charts, but no.
You don't like that, huh?
No, that's fine. Well, I didn't make my point. What about let's take the number 1 up here, for example. Number 1 is Mr. Middleton. Mr. Middleton has been apparently on our list since June of '05. What are we doing to bring these to closure?
Probably lien is. That's what.
But we know that liens aren't effective.
No,
Yeah,
John,
wait,
the answer to that is very clear. We have a lien, we placed a lien on his property. The next step is to take that to judgment. If we decide that lien is sufficient to take a judgment. With regard to taking, the other alternative we have is taking him to court and suing him for resolving the violation. And the compliance policy that we put in place about 3 or 4 months ago said that sign violations would not be taken to court action.
Okay, I'm just drawing a blank. I guess I forgot all
We
about that.
passed a resolution several months
Okay,
ago
all right.
that delineated certain types of
Okay.
violations. We said signs, no court action, fences, court action.
Okay, I stand corrected. Okay,
And the POA Act is limited to start with.
oh, I understand that. I
$50 a day.
understand.
That resolution will be in your reference manual.
I don't think it is. My reference manual.
The new one you got a month ago.
Okay,
Well, the good thing there in that case is
Okay.
that we took the signs down because they were in common area. They should have been taken down a long time ago. So there, it's a moot point.
Well, we have to discuss that. That's a separate issue that,
And other
We'll
than,
discuss
discuss
it.
always is the $1,800.